Check out this one. Look at that thing. Look at that. Well, it won't even focus on. There we go. And on the other side, it's got your buddy's name right there. All right. Hey, good morning to you. It is Wednesday, April 30th at 10:31 a.m. I had a couple thoughts, wanted to bring them to you. And I'll just give you an overview of what I'm going to do first. First, I'm going to talk a little bit about how Purdue is not as sexy as you thought they were. That's the first thing. And the second thing I want to talk about, I just want to talk a little bit about the NBA playoffs and what happened in Indianapolis last night, because it piqued my interest, which does not happen very often with the NBA. And the NBA is making a major mistake, in my opinion, and a huge mistake. And I can't get over how dumb it is, but we can talk about that here in a second. First, I want to thank our pals at Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com, enter Boiled25. And get 15% off your first order. And also, when you're on campus and you've just watched Purdue's Big Three torch a team next winter, you know what you do? You want to go someplace warm. You want to go someplace with TV so you can watch some more college basketball. So you head towards the fire station. And when you get there, the warm blue lights, I know red lights are warm, but these blue lights will welcome you and warm you up like a blanket. You go in there, Adam and company will serve you delicious foods and drink, and you can watch some basketball and end your night on a high note. AJ's by the fire station, eatajs.com, burgers, beef, beer, hospitality, friendship, love, admiration. AJ's, that's AJ's. So I want to talk a little bit about what I've been listening to in the form of recruiting pundits giving me their thoughts. And obviously the recruiting season is mostly over, unless it's not, because things just continually keep happening in spite of, the portal closing. Guys can still move. Things can still change, but Purdue is pretty set. And like I said, last podcast, last QuickCast, last nightcast, whatever it was, I thought Purdue was in a pretty good position. Turns out they are in a pretty good position. But here's what I see right now. Purdue got 3 big gets in the late recruiting season. 2 of them are from the portal and in the form of Murphy and Clough. And then, of course, they got Omer Meyer. And Purdue looked like pretty sexy, honestly. A lot of people thought, wow, this is different. Purdue is different. But really, when you step back and you look at all that's happened since then, Purdue is Purdue. Purdue is still built around development of players. Purdue is still built around a core that is incredibly solid. Purdue is still built around fundamentals and doing things a similar way year in, year out, playing hard, being incredibly efficient on offense, and then hopefully taking a step forward on defense. But at the same time, all these other teams, Illinois, Louisville, Michigan, UCLA, Kentucky, St. John's, and others, have pretty much rebuilt their rosters. If they haven't rebuilt them, they've added 4 or 5 guys. Illinois, specifically, one of the most unusual portal classes you'll ever see. If you haven't looked at it, it's pretty amazing. Everybody's name ends in Vic, V-I-C. So they've got the Slavic 5 coming at you, and Underwood is once again the toast of the town for many online experts. I threw up some air quotes in case you were just listening. A quote I heard from, I can't remember who it was, but I wrote it down because it was noteworthy. It says, "I don't know how good they'll be defensively, but they'll have a deadly offense." And he was talking about Illinois. And you could say the same thing for Louisville with their gets, and Michigan and UCLA and Kentucky and St. John's. But let's keep in mind, teams like Rutgers last year, there was promises of great riches in their recruits, their duo, and it didn't work out so well. Illinois had half a season where they struggled. IU struggled for an entire season. IU continues their rebuild right now. But there are teams like Houston that chug along and do things their way. I think Houston got somebody out of the portal. I just don't remember. It's really hard to keep up on it. But the thing I want to ask you, if you're bothered or dismayed or worried that Purdue is no longer a media darling when it comes to the talk of the portal and recruiting, is, who would you rather be? Who in college basketball would you rather root for? What squad would you rather be behind? I can't think of anybody. You've got 3 great players returning, not good players, great players returning. We haven't seen something like this in a long time, really, at Purdue. And when you start thinking the big 3, the 3 amigos, that type of moniker, it starts feeling pretty special. Purdue's got a core that's incredible and well built to build around upon, and Purdue is building around on that. The real question is, with all these teams and with Purdue, is how well will they gel, and did they meet needs when they went out and got their guys? Purdue was going very specific in their needs. I spoke before that the athletic deficiencies, I think, are overstated, number one, by many people. But what did Purdue need? Purdue needed a rim protector more than anything. Second, they needed guys that could really rebound. And finally, they needed better on-ball defense. I think the last one of those is you're going to see a major adjustment by Painter and company, in that I think he's going to free up Braden Smith to be more of an on-ball defender next year. You saw it. You saw a little glimpse of it during the NCAA tournament, even against Houston, and that push-off play. Braden Smith's defense was textbook. And he was staying in front of one of the best athletes with a ball in his hand in America. I think that's going to be one of the biggest adjustments that we'll see next year, is that Braden Smith won't play that free safety position. And it'll be multiple reasons behind that. Number one, he's not going to have to play 38 and a half minutes a game. That's a big one. That's a very big one, because you can say, okay, you can go out on offense and defense and maybe take a 5-minute break every now and again. But the other thing is, I think the coaches saw the problem with that philosophy and what it was yielding. I think Purdue had some major issues on defense because of the scheme and because of the talent. It wasn't just one or the other, but they combined, right? So Purdue went out and got some guys to try to address that need. And at the end of the day, Purdue looks a lot like they did last year, in that you're going to be defined by the success of those big 3. And now these guys are seniors. They're not juniors anymore. And I think you're going to see some personality changes among those 3. This is just kind of me guessing. I know these guys have things to work on. I'm going to talk about that this summer. I may go through the entire roster. You can tell me if you think it's a good idea or not. Go through the entire roster and talk about who needs to get better and how do they need to get better, and how important is a guy maybe that we haven't talked about a lot, like Benter. Benter's a guy I want to focus on specifically because I think a lot of Purdue fans have lost what he is. They don't really, they don't have him in the forefront, and they should, because I think he's going to be real special. All right. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. Second, and I'm trying to go this like a real quick cast where I'm actually talking about things quickly. I wanted to talk about the Pacers and Bucks. I know this is a departure of the way I usually do things, but I wanted to talk about it for multiple reasons. Number one, this major mistake the NBA is making should have everybody's attention. If you are my age, I'm almost 50, turned 50 this summer. You remember an era in the NBA where pretty much everybody, if there's a playoff game in the late afternoon, early evening, between 2 teams that America either loved or loved to hate, everybody would be gathered around their TV. Well, it's not the case anymore. As I found out last night, I said, wow, Pacers are on. I'm going to watch it. I've only gotten to watch the Pacers, I think, 3 times this year. I will watch them if it's available, but they're never on because of the pay-per-view business model the NBA has gone to. I'm not going to pay for pay-per-view or whatever it's called. I'm not going to pay a subscription, especially when you see, I know, and this is probably the Pacers decision too. I don't know how it works, but I mean, I'm mildly interested in the Pacers because of my family connection to the organization. So I want to see them. I want to see them play. I want to see them succeed. But I really generally don't like the NBA because the structure of the rules, the structure of a lot of things. Last night's game was different because I tuned in, watched it for about 7-8 minutes, and then it went to the blackout mode. I couldn't believe that they gave the tease. I don't know if that's an intentional thing they do. I really don't know. I don't watch enough. But the Pacers looked horrible in those opening minutes. I think they were down quickly by double digits. They kind of dug out of the hole, and then they fell again to double digits. I think it was like, if I remember correctly, 21-11 or something like that when it went to blackout at my house. Maybe it was different years. I took it very personally. But then I was kind of keeping up on Game Tracker and what was happening, and trying to keep up on highlights via Twitter, watching stuff as it came across. And the end of the game was just absolutely bonkers. So then I started piecing together what actually happened by highlights, and then some bootleg stuff came out on Reddit. And I got to watch the entire fourth quarter via one of those links. And there are a couple takeaways. Number one, this old bad blood between the Pacers and Bucks is legit, and that makes it more fun, right? In the 90s, there would have been fights. I'm sure of that. The way the Pacers and the Bucks treated each other, the disdain they had for each other, specifically Halliburton and Giannis. I went back and I watched some highlights of when Giannis scored 64 and he wanted to keep the ball, but instead Carlisle and company kept the ball to give to Oscar Schwebe, who had his first NBA points, and Giannis chased Pacers into the hallway and acted like he was going to fight, and he got in Halliburton's face for a matter of minutes, and wagged his finger at him and talked to him. And then you have the Pat Beverly incident last year during the playoffs where Beverly threw the ball into the crowd. I did a little research. If you don't keep up on this, who can blame you? But Beverly went and he played in Israel because he had a 4-game suspension with the NBA that he hadn't yet served. Actually, 2, I think, suspensions that hadn't been served yet. Went to Israel, and he was suspended in Israel, actually, because of going on social media and mocking his coach. Fast forward to last night, where you had the end of the game, and Halliburton missed some threes, but Halliburton made plays. And I could not believe the contrast of the way Halliburton made his plays and the way Nimbard specifically made plays. I watched the Bucks-Pacers game where they had the wild ending with Halliburton hitting the 3 in the corner on that wide receiver, all-go route type weird play. And in the end of that game, Nimbard looked like he was throwing the thing. He just absolutely looked awful. But in this one, Nimbard made plays, man, defensively and offensively, over and over. Nimbard was making plays. Nesmith made plays, and Halliburton kept driving on the Bucks, and they couldn't do anything about it. And at the end of the game, number one, at the end of regulation, the ball was in Giannis's hands, and he couldn't make a shot. And then you had at the end of overtime, after the Pacers had stormed back, I mean, they were down by 7 with 39 seconds left. That's pretty damning, right? Especially with the way Trent was lighting the world on fire from 3. But Pacers storm back, make plays. At that last play, Giannis wanted all of Halliburton. He D'd him up, and Halliburton just completely cooked him. That was pretty fun drama. Even if you're not an NBA guy, I highly suggest try to find highlights of this. But after the game was over, it still wasn't over because Giannis heard, he didn't hear. Halliburton's dad pretty much got in his face. He was out of line. Halliburton's dad was out of line. And there's some great debate going on about this, about who's worse, who's out of line, whatever. Halliburton's dad's definitely out of line for taunting Giannis, but this goes back. This goes back to some things that Giannis has said, and Halliburton's dad doesn't have any time for that. But also, Halliburton's dad's kind of a loose cannon. He'll do whatever he feels like doing. So that's one thing. But then Giannis gets in his face, this old man's face, and I say old. He's probably my age or younger than me. I don't know. He looks older than me. Thank you for complimenting me. But he gets in his face and goes forehead to forehead with him and really kind of tries to get him to submit, really, if you look at it, read the body language. He also does the same thing with Mathern in a different way. He grabs the back of Mathern's head and in the handshake line, quote-unquote handshake line, and starts barking in his ear head to head, and Mathern has no time for it, and he almost fights. So my son used the term, he said, Giannis is clearly raging, right? Raging. And he's done it before. There's a precedent of this, right? The real problem the NBA might have, though, is I don't really know what clamps are on the second round of the playoffs when the Pacers play the Cavs. But are they going to have the same TV blackout stuff happening where now my interest is peaked? I want to watch. I want to see if the Pacers can back it up with a second round victory. Who knows? I'll be able to watch. But the NBA is just... I think they're a mess for this, an absolute mess for not opening this up during the playoffs. It's incredible to me. It's asinine. Sorry, I don't talk about the NBA hardly ever, but maybe this is a little bit of a segue. I've tried to figure out what I'm going to talk about this summer because I think it's going to be pretty quiet around God's country. I don't think we're going to know a lot about what's happening other than what's intentionally released, both in football and basketball. And speaking of football, Purdue just got a 6-year defensive back, a guy who has committed to everybody in America. But it's another one of those commitments that I'm like, man, I don't know how to keep up with all this, but this one's it's an emblem of many of the things that you're like, wow, this guy's been around forever. I hope he's great. Hope he has a good year, but he only gets 1 year at Purdue. Purdue also got a former starting punter from Washington this week. You need a good punter. You really don't want to notice the punter. Last year, we knew way too much about the punter because Purdue's offense couldn't move the ball. So a lot of stuff happening in the portal for Purdue. So much movement, so much roster shift, so difficult to keep up with all these things on the football side of things. But it's not going to stop me from going to games on Saturdays this fall. Can't wait. And I'm going to listen to what you guys have to say. I'm already been on for a little bit of time. Motor City Boiler is first, and he can spell it that way. It's good. Jarvizda says, mid-morning love. Yeah, it's all love here. Good to see you. Motor City Boiler continues, good morning, B-Dowd. Same to you. Good interacting with you as always on Twitter. Having a great time. Marshall Briggs, another pal, Twitter pal, says, good morning from Elgin Air Force Base. On beautiful, is that right? Elgin? Yeah, on beautiful, the beautiful Florida Panhandle. That's awesome. That's awesome. I love hearing, like I said, I love hearing about people that are, we're gathering here around the BS fireplace, talking about stuff, but that's pretty cool. Motor City Boiler says, good, beautiful morning from Pontiac, Michigan. Yes. Former home of the Pontiac Superdome, right? Chris Harder says, Poppins Pub is in the house. Glad to see you, Chris. By the way, I think you are, I've talked about how I effectively brainwashed LBD into becoming a Purdue fan. I think you are doing a good job in brainwashing your son to becoming a future great in the net, in the goal, on the ice. So good work. Love seeing those photos. Stripey Tony says, hey, live. Yep, you made it here. Ryan Michael Anthony Harrington says, Pacers are such a fun team. I love that they're getting people back into NBA who usually wouldn't watch. I am that guy. The funny thing, it's so much different than it used to be. I mean, this Pacers-Bucks rivalry specifically would have many times come to blows, not just dancing with each other in the 90s. It's very different. Also, they would have called traveling a lot more. In fact, on one of Giannis's drives, I know there's a gather step. I'm very aware of the stupid rules that are there. But a guy that big and that athletic, the freak is a good moniker for him. But he doesn't need another advantage. He doesn't need to be able to pick up his dribble outside the 3-point line to drive. I mean, my gosh, what a beast. So, but the NBA, they know offense sells. I get it. I'm an American. I like offense too. Thaddeus Grubauer says, beautiful day and a beautiful voice to my ears. That is too kind. My voice is disgusting, especially this time of year. The allergy stuff really just starts playing havoc with me. Last night was my eyes. My eyes were on fire for 2 hours, just for shits and giggles. Pardon my, should have said kicks and giggles, but whatever. Yeah, hate allergy season. All right, let's go further. Motor City Boiler says, by the way, Purdue B-ball not playing in the state of Michigan for the first time ever. I'm sure they haven't played in Michigan before. But you might have to go back to like the, 60s? You go back a long time. But the schedule looks great. And if you haven't seen it, it's been released by Boiler Ball on Twitter. Schedule looks pretty good. About as good as you could ask for as a Purdue fan. So an interesting thing is they'll have a West Coast swing where they play USC and UCLA. Maybe you'll meet me out there on the West Coast. Who knows? We are already talking about members of the BS team. Yes, there are other members of the BS team if you don't listen here very much. We've talked about maybe getting together on the West Coast. I don't know if it'll happen. There's a lot of things that have to work there. But, man, it'd be kind of fun. It'd be kind of fun. Adam P says, morning. Nolan Hosteller says, good morning, Dowd. You too. Mo P, what a fun surprise. Morning, all. Thanks for being here, Mo. Boyle Bugle says, hi from Dayton, Ohio. Adam P says, we are better when we are not the media darling. We don't need anyone's affirmation to know we're good. Absolutely. So on one hand, Purdue is not the media darling, on the recruiting side of things. All of a sudden, Purdue is, like I said, not that important in many of the eyes. But on the other hand, their preseason number one was quite a few. So like we've been saying for the last couple of years, the old Purdue gets no respect, the Rodney Dangerfield bit that we play up, it's really not true anymore, right? I don't think any Purdue fan can truly claim that. You see little shades of it every now and again, but really Purdue, the media wants Painter to be great, and they give Purdue a lot of respect. So we're kind of still the media darling, whether we're not to be or not. Even if I want to put the chip on my shoulder, which is not hard to replace because I automatically have it. But Purdue's a darling. Who's Johnny says, we have the best three in college basketball. I do not debate that, and I don't know who could. Maybe that'll come up when I start understanding the rosters a little bit better. Maybe you'll be able to argue that. It's going to be a tough argument, though. It's going to be a tough debate to move me off my post there. Boyle Burger says, is BS taking donations for Purdue Day of Giving? No, sadly, we don't have a Patreon, and we're not going that way right now. So no Day of Giving for me. Appreciate it, though. Who's Johnny says, Lawyer is an underrated defensive player. He's very smart on D, gets a lot of charges. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and disagree with you here. I am not a fan of Lawyer on defense. And if I were going to say the biggest improvement Lawyer could make, it's being better on ball defense. He gets torched a lot. He does get there for charges, but part of the reason he gets there is he's pretty good at acting, if I'm going to be real honest. And he's hated for it, too. If you don't know that, if you're just in a Purdue circle, you may not know this. Lawyer is absolutely hated by other fan bases for flopping. I've always said Lawyer has some of the telltale signs of the old Duke, the classic Duke players from the golden era of Duke basketball, where a lot of other fan bases don't like him. We love him. And he's a dead-eye shooter. One thing he doesn't have that those Duke players did, many of those shooting guards that Duke had, he doesn't really have that ability to continue to crank up the amount of shots during a game. He waits for the game to come to him, and then quietly he'll get 16 points, and you're like, I didn't even know he did that, right? Or he'll have a half where he disappears, and the other half he's just incredibly good. And so then the other coach will say, got to take him away, got to get rid of him. So they'll try to ratchet down on him. And then when they ratchet down on him, he tries to just be a decoy and draw people away to open up the middle. Dan says, bringing back an elite rim protector in DJ is huge. Absolutely. He continues, says, that's what Purdue was missing most of last season. So you're bringing that back in twofold, right? Because you got Clough and Jacobson. It's absolutely a Purdue formula that wins. Painter knows how to coach that defense that funnels things to the middle. Purdue's very good at that, and Jacobson's going to be an absolute difference maker, and Clough is going to be mean on the glass. So it's very, very good. Justin Crone says, Illinois and these other programs totally flip their rosters year in, year out. Yes, they do. It's Underwood's business model, clearly. And they're going to struggle the majority of the time. The lack of continuity tends to show and cost teams wins many times. This team coming in, interestingly enough, they've got a lot of Meyer type guys that have already played some pro ball, from what I understand. So they've got some real skill there. But a lot of people are wondering about Illinois' ability to play defense next year, because a lot of these guys play a European style of game, a FIBA style game, where defense is just different, and it's like situational almost. So we'll see about that. But there's a great void left by Coach Fran leaving and being a team that just scores and doesn't play defense, and maybe Illinois will fill it. Who knows? Has not worked out well for Iowa, though. Mopi says, not bothered by Purdue not being a media darling whatsoever. Would rather them go under the radar. Agreed. Plus, college basketball media change their opinions by the hour. Boiler up, carry on. Yeah. So much of the media right now is non-traditional media on shows not unlike this, just with a bigger scope and a louder megaphone. And a lot of those models are based on quick reactions to everything, absolutely knee-jerking to everything that happens. I don't like to do that. I try not to do that. I had a guy get mad at me last summer because I was trying to post once a week, and he said I was totally a clickbait monster. Like I just was the worst at it. And now there's a difference between doing clickbait where you're saying a falsehood, and then the other one is you're trying to be somewhat interesting and grab someone's attention. So I want to do that, like it with thumbnails and stuff like that. Often a thumbnail idea will lead me to just a post because I'm like, yeah, this was fun. And because I'm a graphic and product designer by trade, that stuff, it scratches an itch for me. So today wasn't really one of those, but a lot of times I'll do something to say, okay, this is interesting to me. I've done a lot of thumbnails, though, that a lot of people didn't find as interesting as me. And I'll even send them to friends, be like, check this one out. And I don't get much love back. That hurts my feelings. Ryan Michael Anthony Harrington says, second round is all on national broadcast. That's good news. That's good. Why the hell isn't the first round on? I don't understand. I do not understand it. So I'm sure that's kind of a thing that pulls in those providers. I think FanDuel now, it used to be one of the other casinos, is the sponsor. Was it Harrah's or somebody? It doesn't matter. I didn't do it. I'm not playing along. Adam McComb says, just reporting in live from the hospital, welcoming a new baby girl into our family of Boilermakers. Thanks for everything you do, Boilerhead. Adam, cheers to that. Amen. That's great news. Congratulations. I don't know you, but I'm rejoicing with you, and I'll say a prayer of thanksgiving. That's awesome. That's great news. Man, I love hearing that. I mean, the mornings when my kids were born, and both of them were born, my son, my wife was in labor for a long time with him. My daughter was relatively quick, but those mornings are vivid to me still. So that's awesome. That's great. Thanks for being here. Marshall Briggs says, I grew up in Logansport, just a hop from West Lafayette, but never made it to a game. How about that? I'm determined to fly home and go to a basketball and football game this year. Which games would you recommend? Oh, if you can get to an IU game, obviously it's got a little extra spice. Here's what I wouldn't do. The ticket will be easier to get during Christmas break. And if you haven't been there for a full strength Mackey, you should go. That's the first thing. If you're gonna go to your first basketball game, do not go there without the paint crew. They are such a difference maker. The place is absolutely crazy. Do old people try to do it? I mean, I've been one who's tried to will, a quasi paint crew. Great balloons. But you should be there for a full throated version. Gosh darn it. Watching the balloons flash up. I don't even know I did it. But go to that. Go to one of those games, and then the other one I would suggest. And my brother and Jay, who has a comment here in a second, have been talking about the USC game. Could be a really interesting one. Purdue will be 2-0 coming into that, and that's kind of that's gonna be a fun one for fans to see in Ross-Ade. So I think the crowd could be lathered up. Maybe it'll be a later kickoff. So if you can get to that USC game, I think that's late September. I'm not looking at a calendar right now, but those would be two that I would highly suggest going to. So hope that helps. Don't know if it does. Jack-O-Lantern22, J Money says, he talks to Mo P, and I'm not going to read it because he's talking to somebody else. I'm not going to do that. But he talks about the media darling thing. And Jay and I have been talking for a long time about the switch, and Anish as well, about the switch and how different it is to have Purdue be somebody that the media actually loves. Media loves Matt Painter. There's no way about it. No other way about it. Tamaz J says, sup guys, how are you? Dan continues a lot of good basketball games to choose from this season. Very favorable schedule for Purdue. I'm looking to make a trip for one of them. It really depends on which one of them falls on a weekend. It'll be a tough ticket too. It'll be a very tough ticket. It's funny. I haven't gotten season tickets in a long time. And when Purdue's really good, it's harder to get these tickets. Yeah, no kidding, right? But yeah, it's gonna be a super tough ticket. It's gonna be a very fun place to be, and I wonder, and we'll see it relatively soon, what this team's going to want to do. Are they going to want to dominate wire to wire, make statements all the time? Or are they going to want to be a team that there'll be some games where they look like they left some in the tank? They're just kind of waiting and biding their time. I don't know the answer to that. But when you start as the hunter, right? Purdue's absolutely going to be the hunter. They're going to be in the catbird seat for the conference title and going to be a favorite to get to the Final Four. How do the seniors, how do the captains handle this? These guys are experienced, have been around Zach Edey and his absolutely cutthroat worldview. We'll see what they do. Be interesting. Tomas J says he gets 3 statements. Does lawyer trash talk a lot? Yes, he does. Continues, his runner is great. It's incredible. His runner is great. His off a pocket pass shot is incredible. Not very good off the dribble out there, but incredible. Great shooter. So continues. I hope Fletch gets more shots per game this year. Yeah, I do too. I think part of that comes from how willing he is to force the issue. And I think one of the reasons Paint loves him and keeps him on the court so much is he is so cerebral in the way he approaches the game. He understands what's going on, he understands what other defenses are throwing at him, and he doesn't force things. And I think Paint absolutely loves it. So, Jack Leonard says, hey, nice Yeti. Yep. I think I mentioned that this was a gift from you. Appreciate it. Very nice Christmas gift. Very generous man. Dan says, Clough isn't much of a shot blocker. Correct. I think he's like 0.8 shots blocked a game, but his rebounding is obviously elite. Yeah, but he does defend shots. He's not much of a shot blocker, but he does defend shots. Last year, Purdue had a major problem in the interior with guys defending and making it difficult on players driving. It was a problem. If we look at the two defensive big men, First and TKR, both of them struggled on the defensive side. There's no other way around it, especially on shot blocking. Kyle Ray says, hello from Fort Myers. Excellent. Hoping to get to West Lafayette for a basketball game before they all graduate. Hoping the IU game. Everyone's going to want that ticket. And as soon as they become available on Vivid Seats or whatever your favorite broker, whatever your favorite gouger is out there, probably should jump on it because they're just going to go up and up and up. Andy Leahy's, that's to somebody else. Marshall Brick says, thanks for the advice. You're welcome. Hope it helps. Tomas J says, any dates we should keep in mind during the summer? Is there going to be a team Euro trip or something? There's not a team Euro trip. By rule, they can't do it. One of the many NCAA stupidity things, NCAA puts its foot down every now and again, and usually it seems arbitrary because it is, but you can't do it but once every 4 years. I'm sure they're going to do something, but I don't know what it is. I think those trips, those exhibitions, whatever you want to call them, extremely important for team building, right? The traveling together on the road, that sort of thing, eating meals together, getting to know the other guys. I think it's extremely important for a team that's trying to figure out their chemistry. A couple of years ago, you can remember back when Trey Williams was still on the team and Edey was a youngin'. Those teams really got along really well. And in the off season, they spent a lot of time together. When I say they spent a lot of time as a unit, the whole group, I think there's factions within teams. Obviously there's groups of 3 or 4. I got to see Harris, Cox, and Burgess at the spring game together, spending time. Great to see those guys out. They don't have to make appearances there, but it's awesome to see those guys doing that. But there are obviously guys that get along better than other dudes, but that team was really unique in that it was like the whole group rolled together. So Mike B says, do you see a scenario where if Meyer offers Fletch level shooting and better playmaking, that CJ or Jakari displaces Fletch for defense? Well, you saw it this year where situationally Fletch would be pulled offense and defense. And the really interesting thing to me about that this season was you hadn't really seen that from Painter early in games. He would do it at like the 10-minute mark in some games just to try to help Purdue get over the hump if there was foul trouble or something like that. I don't think Purdue should struggle as badly with foul trouble next year, simply because TKR getting in foul trouble won't hurt as badly because there should be some really, really solid depth there. Oscar Clough can move around in position a little bit from the 4 and the 5, and then having Clough and Jacobson together would just be absolutely terrifying, I think, for other teams. Very, very different look, very different styles of play, but TKR obviously can score on almost about anybody, and he was starting to get the double team treatment about middle through the season. So will Fletch be displaced as a starter? Absolutely not. If I were gonna, that's one thing. I mean, I would almost, and I don't bet on sports, but that's one thing I would. If you're going to bet on one thing, it's that Fletch, TKR, and Smith are going to start the whole season. And the only thing keeping them from starting is injury or illness. And even illness, I don't think will keep those guys off the court. So there's my opinion on that. I hope that's enough. Andy Ide says, checking in from St. Louis, another Boiler, closer scattered, but scattered out a bit. And Devout says, love the morning QuickCast from Idaho. Man, oh man, you guys. I love it. Love it. So great morning, great QuickCast. Great to touch base with you guys. Probably not a QuickCast, 35 minutes. I will review that and I will critique myself on that. I do not think it's a QuickCast, but I will blame you guys. I'm going to put some blame at your feet because if the conversation is good, it's not a QuickCast. If you look back when I originally started calling it a QuickCast, we didn't do this. This interaction didn't happen, but now it's over half the show and it's all good stuff because you guys remind me of things that I need to talk about, which is fantastic. But I wouldn't call it a quick cast. Jeff Netzer says, talking about St. Louis. Stripey Tawny says, Gillis moved to bench, sacrifice for the team. Yeah, he did. He did. But if you remember, he wasn't the same business model that, and I say that, Smith and Lawyer have started every game since they got on campus. Completely incredible. I don't think it's ever happened at Purdue, ever, where guys have started every game since they got on campus. TKR, on the other hand, maybe TKR is willing to move his starting, but I don't think you want to get him out of there because he's so important on the offensive end. When Purdue needed a bucket last year, it was TKR producing. So I just don't think Smith and Lawyer will move from their starting roles. I just don't think it'll happen. I would be shocked if they did, but I understand what you're talking about. If you go back, remember you had Williams not only sacrificed starting, he sacrificed a lot of minutes. I said this earlier when both Colvin and Heidi decided to leave because they didn't. The hint seems pretty obvious. They weren't getting enough minutes, weren't getting featured enough in the offensive sets. But when they did that, they were averaging. Heidi was averaging 19.7 minutes a game, 19.8 minutes a game. Trey Williams was averaging 20.8 minutes a game as a senior. He sacrificed a lot. And this is one thing that's great, that there are guys out there. These are Purdue guys. When you're willing to kind of put your individual accolades away for the team, and Paint saw great things coming with Edey. That took great vision, but it also took Williams really moving out of the way as a captain would. Incredibly humble stuff. I don't know if I'd be able to do that, if I'm real honest, in anything. Just say, yeah, you can have it. And maybe it was a little more of a fight than that, but that's what it looked like to the public. They handled it greatly. So, and that's it. I mean it now. And we're at 38 minutes. That is not a quick cast. God bless you. Hammer down. And especially congratulations to Adam and his growing family. That is huge news. Another Boiler comes to the world today. Cheers to you. And that's really, truly a blessing to hear about. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.